Grant, did you want to just take us a step back and say, kind of provide us a definition about SIP and really the benefits that businesses are realizing from it?
Yep. The quick overview, SIP is a form of voice over IP. SIP stands for Session Initiation Protocol, which comes from the technical side. It's actually what the signaling protocol is called. In short, it's a way, SIP trunking is a way to access the public telephone network through your data network.
Right.
Simple as that. What it allows you to do is therefore to leverage your data connection, whether that be an IPVPN kind of a connection or an internet connection, to call out, make phone calls to anybody in the world. Second thing is in the way that it is structured. To put it simply, when you deploy a SIP trunk, it gives you the ability to get all of the telephone numbers that you need and all of the local accesses that you need from across the country into one physical location. And that's pretty big.
And I know the implementation is still, somewhat new, but have you realized the benefits that you were looking for in a SIP trunking solution?
Yeah, absolutely. Our savings were probably around, I would say, overall, after we factor out, maintenance costs and the cost for redundancy, we're probably saving somewhere in the range of about 15% from a hard cost perspective. The soft costs we haven't calculated in, but these are things like now we have our help desk team now can provision the phones across the country. Right? We ship a phone out, they program it, they plug it in, user signs in, and they're good to go. In our downtown office with the near 400 people setup, we actually did that implementation with Office Services that was managing the previous service provider. We did it without IT.
Melanie, are those the typical types of savings you're seeing in the market as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we're seeing is the ability to be flexible in your facilities. So, this idea of hot desking, where you don't need to have a desk and a phone for every employee, right? You can have, a few that employees can use, plug into when they need to, and plug out when they don't. And, that can lead to significant cost savings just around, the real estate costs, facilities, but everything that goes along with that, right? All of the utilities, security, and personal security, all that stuff goes away. So
one of the benefits that we saw was in the Toronto area, we have 4 offices. We have, if on the aggregate, we had in excess of probably 300 actual physical trunks that we were using to route traffic on because we can't share them between offices. And with the billing issues aside, we were able to collapse that down and basically cut the number of trunks required by probably about somewhere between half and a third, because we're actually able to now pool all those trunks together, so they now form one giant trunk shared by all 4 offices. So if one office needs a couple more lines, they're there. If another office has fewer lines, then they use less. Right, so there's some significant benefits there on the cost side, and of course the cost of IP trunk compared to a traditional trunk is roughly about a third.
Yeah, I'm sure that if with the system that you've got now and the setup that you've got now, being able to support a bring your own device program or other devices into it is infinitely easier than it would have been previously, right?
Yeah,
I think previously you wouldn't have been able to do it, right?
To that point, we deployed Cisco Wireless late last year. Again, we have it coast to coast now. And we've actually we spent a year looking for a mobile device management suite, but now that we've got that in play, we actually allow people to have we've got their BlackBerries tied into the wireless network so that, they're not, they can place phone calls if they've got Skype on an iPhone, for example, over the wireless network. We also have the newer wireless 7925 handset from Cisco. So, for the hoteling stations that we have, people can basically, they come in, they sign into the handset with their regular phone. So if we've got a user traveling from Vancouver, they can go to a hoteling station and they can walk around the office carrying the wireless handsets. And when a client calls or an employee calls to try to reach them, they don't really need to know where they are. They dial the same office number that they've always dialed, and the system will find them.
And the soft savings are combined with the hard savings. I know that in a lot of the discussions that I've had around business cases is, the networking savings, are sometimes a little easier to quantify than the soft savings. The soft savings, depending on what it is sometimes a little bit more difficult. But when you're able to roll that in, very often, those two combined are actually a great boost to the overall justification of a business case to move to unified communications. It helps you, because you may struggle with the initial investment saying, well, if I'm going to be, putting new infrastructure in, possibly upgrading my equipment to an IP-PBX, well, that's an investment, right? And so this really helps to offset the cost of that and show a payback.
I mean, the other thing we're starting to see is we're reaching a point of competitive parity almost. And by that, I mean, people are expecting this level of communications. So your customers expect to be able to dial a number and reach you wherever you are and not have to leave 15 different messages in 15 different places. And they expect that when you take that call, you have information about them at your fingertips. So that level of customer service, and I'm not just talking about in a contact center, I mean at every point in the organization, that is becoming an expectation on the customer side. And so at some point, like we saw with email, like we saw with web addresses, it's just automatically assumed that you're going to have that level of service, if you will. And if you don't, then they'll go to the other company that does.
Let me tell you why SIP trunking brings such value to customers. Value proposition, cost, efficiency, and consolidation of UC infrastructure. From a cost perspective, imagine running all of your voice over your data network and throwing out the data circuit that you used to have to buy. That saves you cost. From an efficiency point of view, how about managing less network and less equipment? Consolidating together into fewer pieces of equipment means less boxes, right? Everything flows from that, and you have one centralized group, maybe a smaller group of people that have to worry about this stuff every single day, allowing those people to focus on your core business. So SIP also provides a basis and a framework to be able to go way beyond just voice. So as people look at unified communications, ways of expanding the way that they do business, getting into things like video and collaboration, an IP infrastructure that utilizes SIP helps to make that happen.